Welcome to the World Movers Media Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Angel Fire. With me today is my co-host, Kwaku Am. And today we have audio engineering, Tyler, the Creator's new album, Igor. Would you please introduce yourself, Neal?
How you doing? It's Neal H. Pogue right here on this great podcast with these two gentlemen here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, guys.
What's some advice that you could give to someone who wants to make it into the music industry, particularly as an audio engineer and or producer?
The producer, mixer, in these times where it's so congested and everybody's, trying to be a producer and a mixer and an engineer, it's so I would say just try to find a way to stand out, to be different, not to follow the latest trends, because you're only going to get caught up in the whole congested industry of everybody just trying to sound the same. You know what I mean? So just try to stand out. I think some people are afraid to do things different because they think it's going to take longer to so-called get in or to get on. But I think in the long run, it's definitely going to pay off by just being you and creating your own sound and doing something different.
Yeah. So how did you become an audio engineer? So how did you first get into the whole entire music industry?
Oh man, as a kid, I always knew that I wanted to be, do something in the music business. I didn't know what it was about. I was that kid who always listened to, vinyl 45 records, and I'm from the old times, man. I'm from back in the day. I'm an old OG, as they say. But as a kid, I would be playing old Motown records on my little record player, and was always intrigued and fascinated by what the sounds were, as far as the instrumentation and who was writing the songs and who was producing them. Always reading the credits. Was always fascinated by the different record label brands and their logos, and kind of, I guess, memorizing who was who, like Atlantic Records and Motown, and you had labels like Buddha and all types of labels, and I was just that kid that used to always just listen to records day in and day out, and then as I got older, I started playing drums, and got into bands, and then as the bands that I was in would go into the studio, I was the guy that was always curious about the audio boards and and how records were mixed and recorded. And so I was the guy that was the producer of the band, because I was the guy that was always interested in the sonics and how the EQs works and the effects, all the processors and all that.
It was like the first band you were a part of, like their name or the genre?
Oh man, I can't remember the first band's name. It was this kind of hybrid of funk and R&B. I think we might have called ourselves Click. That's the first name that comes to mind when I was a kid. You're in the neighborhood bands, we get together and play, play in the basement or play in the garage, or, what I mean? So, but, I think I was the only one that was really serious about it. And interesting times, man.
Yeah, sounds really cool. And that was when you were living in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. I'm from a town called Roselle, New Jersey.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of that place before.
Yeah. Born and raised.
So what would you say is like the hardest thing about your job, being an audio engineer / producer?
I guess the hardest thing is the long hours.
Yeah.
Something that you got to get used to. I mean, which I'm used to now, but I'm saying a person that starts, a person that wants to get in it, it's a lot of long hours.
Mm-hmm.
and it's about serving the client. It's something that you really got to be. You really got to be passionate about it. And but I would say the hardest thing is long hours. But the hardest thing also is dealing with different personalities, the different personalities because you're dealing with artists. Artists are a different breed.
Yeah.
They come uh, with their own imaginations. Things that they bring to the table that you have to get used to. Sometimes clients have their own slang. It's just everything.
Okay.
So you just have to really be a patient person too.
And while we're talking about like how you know uh, you're working with other artists and stuff like that, it seems like today the criticism with most artists is that they tend to sound alike and copy things that have already proven to be successful. Therefore, the main criticism is that the music scene has become somewhat gimmicky.
Most definitely.
One of the main reasons why people like, for example, Tyler's new album Igor is due to
Mhm.
its experimental nature. What is your opinion on the state of where music is now? Are things repetitive, or is that
It is.
not?
It is repetitive, and I was concerned, but I'm feeling a little better about it now because you have artists like Childish Gambino that is helping, really to change people's minds as far as being trendy. I think he's creating some really good music to make people, to really inspire people, to make them feel that they can be an individual, um, rather than following. I think another artist is Bruno Mars. I mean, he's doing some
Mhm.
incredible music. He's not following any trends. I think he's bringing back some great music from back in the day, and thinking fast forward. I think he's doing an incredible job of bringing live music back, which a lot of people are not really thinking about live, but
Yeah.
and writing some incredible R&B music. So now I think a lot of people are thinking that they need to be hip hop in order to be successful. And I know for a fact that a lot of people that do create music are not necessarily into the music that they create, but they just think that that's what they need to do. So it's really sad how people think. I think people should be able just to be themselves and think, and to be free. So if you're thinking that you can't do your thing, then to me that's not freedom. And music is supposed to be about free expression, and not to be chained
Yeah.
down to a trend, thinking that you have to follow something.
You've worked with many artists in your career, with
Yeah,
also some many classic songs, such as Outkast's "Yeah."
right.
That's one of them. Can you describe what it's like to work on? What it was like to work on that case?
Oh man, the first time I heard "Hey Ya" is when Dre had Dre was out here in LA just to visit. I think he was working on. I can't remember what he was working on. He might have been working on a movie or a TV show or something. I can't remember, but he had a demo, and he had a demo of the things that he wanted to. Um, pretty much, he was working on demos for the Love Below, and he so we met somewhere, and we took a ride, and he played me a bunch of demos off of it, like "She's in My Lap" and those songs. And then this song had came on, and I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh, that's just something I'm working on." And I said, "That's your number one song. That is your single." And it was "Hey Ya," but it was just a verse and a chorus, and he didn't finish it. And I was like, "Man, you got to finish this. This is a smash song." And he was like, "Really? You think so?" I was like, "Yeah, man, this is a big song." So as the weeks went on, I would call him and say, "Hey, man, is that song done yet?" And he would say, "No, I'm not done yet." So I would bug him to finish that song. And so when he finally finished it, and when I heard it, I thought it was incredible. And so we went into the studio, and we was about to mix it. And it was one of those songs that, like, it's so good that you want to make it right. So it was great to work on it. It was such an honor because you have a feeling, you know, I have it in my gut that this is going to be a smash song because it was so different
Yeah.
from what it was different from what everybody else was working on at that time. And I just knew that
And it's
it
still
was going to be
different.
a standout. Yeah, it's still different, and I
Hmm.
knew that it was going to be a standout song, and that's what it is. And it's one of those songs that it stands the test of time too.
Oh, and so for a project like that, how do you maintain the motivation? You know, like for big projects, you just really want to get things right. So how do you maintain your focus when you're working on projects like that?
I think the motivation comes from, you know, great music. When you're working on something great, I mean, you're motivated to push and to make sure that it's sonically, you know, great. So it's all in the music as far as the motivation. I mean, if you're working on something that's not as good, then it's not going to motivate you. But when you're working on good music, then it's always going to motivate you. You know what I mean?
Hmm. So when you look at sampling things, or when artists choose to sample particular genres, uh, in your experience, what is the whole entire process from picking out, let's say, you know, a random vinyl disc and playing it, then ripping off some, you know, audio from there, and then opening up, uh, you know, your digital audio workstation to sampling it? What's the How do you pick a sample to fit your project?
Personally, I haven't done it in a long time because
Mhm,
mixing has taken up so much of my time.
mhm.
But back when I was doing it, as far as picking samples, you know, you always try, you know, I think it's about, okay, am I picking something that is familiar to the ear, or am I picking something that is so different that you want it to really stand out? So it just depends on what vibe you're going for. Some people want to find that sample that will instantly, you know, just just rock a club, or you want to find something different that will rock a club too, just by, you know, just by it being just so dope. So I guess it depends on who's actually digging in the crates. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It just depends on the person as far as picking that right sample. But it's, you know, music is such a spiritual thing, man. It's something that you can't explain because it's almost like falling in love. That when you feel that music, when you feel that sample, when you feel that little section that you want to get into people's hearts, man, then that's the one. It's like that one that gives you goose pimples, or just gives you that head nod. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So moving on to the recent project you've worked on, by Tyler the Creator, Igor. The first track, Igor's theme, many refer to Igor as Tyler's Yeezus, particularly when hearing the intro track, Igor's theme. Do you
mm,
think this is a correct assertion? Also, how was it like to mix the track with the whole distortion element and EQ balancing?
that's funny that people think Kanye, because that record, it made me think about. I don't know if you remember. Uh, I don't know, man, if you guys remember this, but back in the day, George Lucas would always have this. I think it was called THX sound that would
Yes.
happen right before
Hmm.
the movie.
That was a
Yeah,
bit cringy, but yeah,
that's what made me feel
yeah.
like, you know, it didn't make me think about anything but that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was just something that wakes you up. Like as soon as you hear that sound, like you know a great is coming. So it's almost like ringing the bell to come eat. You know what I'm saying? So that me is it was the perfect way to start off start Igor off because it almost wakes you up, and as it's playing you don't know if the song is stuck or how long it's going to go or what. It kind of confuses you, so it just goes on and on. But then it's like, oh, but as soon as the beat hits, you're like, oh, okay, you know. So I think it's a perfect way to start a project off.
Yeah, even on the track itself, you know, you hear he's coming. So it's like it really is introducing you. It really is the theme of the album, the gateway.
Right.
So
The perfect introduction. It wakes
Mhm.
you up.
Certainly,
Yeah, it
certainly.
definitely does, man.
So I guess this is like the conceptual side of the album, I guess. So first off, when was Igor first conceptualized? Like, when did this whole thing, this whole project, I guess, come to?
I really don't know because I'm only in the mixing
Mhm.
phase, so I'm not sure when he started it. But knowing Tyler, a lot of the songs were probably um, he's probably had them for years and trying to find the right time to put them within the right project because he's the type of guy that's always writing something. So it's so you never know when that song came to be. But he always finds it. He always finds a way to put it into the right project. He's such a gifted writer, man. He's such a creator. I mean, no pun,
Yeah.
but he's got the perfect name because that's what he is. I mean, he's truly. I mean, this is a guy that doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, and he comes up with these tracks that it's almost like, okay, where did that come from? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he's just such a gifted guy. So one of the most creative people that I've ever worked with, and he's such. I mean, he knows so much about music. See, people get into his nuttiness and his little quirkiness, but the guy's brilliant, man. He knows music up and down. He's like a walking music encyclopedia.
Mhm. Yeah, like also when I look at the album, when I first heard the title of the album, Igor,
Mm,
and I saw like, his face and how it was reminiscent to Frankenstein's creation. Um the name Igor is commonly used to refer to, monsters or,
mm,
like servants of
mm.
eh, you just think of Frankenstein.
Well, if you think about Igor, I don't think Igor was a mean person. He was a gentle, but you know, people judge. You can't judge a cover. You know what I mean? You can't judge a person by its cover. So you don't know what you're gonna get because if you mess with Igor, you're gonna get the monster. But Igor is one of those gentle souls that he's got a lot of love, but it's kind of I guess Igor is something that can be confusing. Um, so you just gotta look at it as you don't know what you're gonna get, and I think it's perfect. That was a perfect name for that album because you don't know what you're gonna get because when you judge Igor by its cover, then of course you're gonna think one thing, but I think once you get to know Igor, then you know what I mean. I think you'll find something out of it. You'll get something else out of it.
I completely agree. Because just recently, I revisited Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, and in it, um, Frankenstein is perceived as a monster. Creator neglects him, but still, you have this sense of compassion from this person that and it goes to your point, not to judge a book by its
Yeah,
cover, or judge this album cover by its
right.
cover. Uh, but it's very interesting when you see the imagery, like vote for
Hmm.
Igor.
Yeah, right.
It's just so interesting.
And plus, Igor, and let's keep in mind, Igor was also a servant too, right? So he serves. So there's so many sides to that name. You know what I mean? So much. It's about giving. It's really about service. It's about it's unexplainable, really. I mean, it's hard to explain what Igor is. So I think it's such a perfect word. It's a perfect name to give an album because people are going to think one thing, someone's going to think something else. But if you get deep into who Igor is, then you'll then you'll understand.
And while we're on that same line of thought, like also when you think about the various samples Tyler used on Igor as well, um, it almost is like a Frankenstein-like monster because Dr. Frankenstein put together his monster with different parts, and Tyler put together this album with different samples. So I just really love the Igor imagery. It's just wow.
And it wasn't any thought put into it. He's just felt that name. That was the name that he felt that the album should be called.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a spiritual thing too. It just hits you. You're like, yes, this is Igor.
Phenomenal name. Phenomenal name for a good project. So one of the questions from my community, I have a community online.
Okay.
They've been asking Kanye's, you know, lyrics on Puppet, and they wanted to know whether or not it was finished. I guess it's due to its short nature on the album.
Oh yeah, it's finished.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. One thing about Tyler didn't want to do the conventional way of making an album. He didn't want the verse one, then chorus, and verse two, and he wanted it to be an experience. And so I see the album as an abstract painting. So you can look at an abstract painting and you get all types of things out of it. Sometimes abstract paintings don't look finished,
mm-hmm.
but they are. So it's the eye of the beholder. But it was everything that's on that album is on purpose, and everything was finished because he didn't want it to be the traditional way of arranging a song. That's what he felt. He felt if it was one verse, that's what it was. If it broke into a singing part, that's what it was. If it broke into an instrumental, it was all meant to be. It's how he felt.
I certainly had that feeling. I remember when I first was listening to it, the very night it came out. I instantly got the Spotify premium, so I could no interruptions from the advertisements. So I could just listen to the whole entire thing and really get the experience. And what struck me was the amount of instrumentation that was on this album. You have your lyrics here and there, but it was like wow, this is a really impactful project. And like you said with Igor's theme, that was like the calling. It really woke me up as I was laying there at night.
So this album was more about melody than it was about words.
Oh,
That's
yes,
what this
yes.
record is. Because he's such a melodic guy. It was more about a feeling than it is about just lyrics. Because sometimes and it wasn't about how trap music people call it mumble rap. So it wasn't mumble rap. It wasn't lyrical hip hop. What it is. It's just that. So when he felt that he needed to say something, he would say it to tell the story. But when he didn't need to say anything, he didn't say it. It's one of those type of records. And it's going to take people a while to understand that, to get into, because a lot of people, I'm sure, they like it, but they don't understand it because it's not of the norm.
Yeah.
It's not the traditional way of creating song.
I certainly agree. And I guess, that's partially due to the current environment we live in. Everyone expects to hear, a long verse from Tyler or a long verse from whoever is featured on the album. And when they hear, just nice melodies and they're like, okay, wait, when is Tyler going to come on? Oh, wait, when is Tyler? They're a bit behooved by that. But certainly, yeah, I like the way you said that. If something needs to be said, he'll say it, and then it's like the melody carries it on.
Yeah. Right. This album was a complete art piece. It's like what it breaks down to. It's an art piece, because music is art. So if music is art, then you should be able to do what you do what you feel, and express it how you want something to be expressed. and hopefully it can open people's minds too to do things different, and like I said earlier, just to be free to make music and not be tied down to any type of formula.
Mm-hmm.
When I listened to this album, I really enjoyed the soulful emphasis throughout.
Yeah, it's about color. It really is, because I feel music in color, and I think Tyler feels that way too. He feels it in color, so it had to be a colorful record. At any given moment had, because he loves piano, he loves chords, he loves melody, he loves, those types of records that really hit you and gives you goose pimples. He loves bridge, so he'll give you an incredible bridge, because he loves bridges. You know what I mean?
Well, there's been much debate online, and this pertains to the, I guess, classification, because everyone wants to categorize things as to whether or not Igor could be classified as strictly hip hop due to its experimental nature, from the intentional sound distortion to the almost indie like vibe you'd get on other tracks. Where do you think Igor lies sonically? What genre does it mostly stand in?
I guess that's up to debate, but I guess with this type of record, it would have to be, I would say, an alternative hip hop record. And I think sometimes, I guess, when you want to compare it to Grammy categories, I guess they're always going to put it in the hip hop, because that's where Tyler's from. But at the end of the day, I think you would have to make a different genre for it.
Closer to R&B than hip hop, in my opinion.
Yeah, you would have to give it, and some people won't even call it R&B. This is it's so eclectic. So what do you call it? I would just, I guess the safest way is to call it soul music. Yeah. I would say, hey, let's just call it soul music.
Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like when we start to give things these classifications, especially on an album that's so experimental like Igor, in my opinion, it just detracts from whatever message the album's trying to convey. And, people start to have false perceptions. Not to say that, my perception of the album is any better than others, but they start to confine themselves in this mental firmament. But when we, in the case of Nas X, I'm sure you know who he is. When he made old,
that's funny that you said. I was thinking of that. Soon as that's what I was thinking about.
When he made Old Town Road, they didn't want to call it, country music. I think.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I think at one point in time they removed it from it being the top country song. It was only until Billy Ray Cyrus was introduced. So
I think they were afraid to put it in the country category, because they knew that it was going to take over, because everybody felt that song. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of country folks that are probably closeted that loves that song even before Billy Ray got on it. But it's one of those things where they can't come to terms with that being on their charts. Let's just be real. I think they're like, okay, this is going to take over. Because you got those guys, what they call Florida Line or something. Those country guys,
Georgia Line.
Yeah. I mean, they do hip hop all the time in their music, hip hop beats. So, I mean, is it fair to call them pop? You know what I mean? Is it fair that they should stay in the country lane? They can't come to pop. Was it fair for Taylor Swift to come over to the pop charts when she was originally country? So let's just be real with how the lines are drawn. So if they can come over here, then we should be able to go over there. So let's just be fair here.
Yeah, I think because of these preconceived notions, it's really limiting the innovation of music. Everyone's so scared to collaborate with this person because they may be from hip hop and I'm doing electro whatever music. So it's you do see this, I guess, anxiety present in these artists sometimes because of this very fact.
I think the powers that be is stirring up. They know that it's the powers that be to stir all this mess. I think that the people on the I think people on the street are not tripping on all that stuff, man. I mean, music is music. If the music is good, let's all just enjoy it and have fun. Um, if it feels like a country song, then let it be on the country track. I mean, on the country charts. I think it's only fair. I don't think it's about, oh, if this artist always does
Hmm.
hip hop and this one song he does sounds a little country. Oh, he can't be country because he always does hip hop. No, it should be about what that song is.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Lil Nas's song. To be honest, I thought it sounded better than half the songs that Florida Georgia Line or any of these other groups is thousands of dollars producing.
Agreed.
And
I agree. Yeah.
their music sounds so basic, and like I actually do love country music, but I just hate
Yeah.
the
Same
modern
here.
pop style.
And I personally like the old school country music rather than this new pop country music. But um, I do like what Nas X did. I think it's great. I think it stirs up things, man. It's a nice little hybrid of two genres, and it feels good. It feels natural. It doesn't feel pretentious like a lot of artists will force a sound on
Yeah.
their music
Hmm.
just to feel relative, but I think the Nas X song, it was like a natural song. He probably just felt it and say, hey, let's just do this because it felt good. He wanted to have fun, and that's what came out. And I think music needs to be fun. It needs to be free.
Video, the music video, he looked like he was having so much fun making. That's the kind of people we want to encourage.
Right. And I think it was fun. It was genius to put Billy Ray on there, man. I think that was genius.
That helped.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that
it was
certainly did help.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, 'cause I think that was a smart business move in order for the country folks to feel a little bit more at ease.
But
That was a great business move.
I think the unfortunate part of that whole entire situation is that when Billy Ray Cyrus was added to Old Town Road, only he got recognition for you know uh, the success of the song. Getting in the charts from the country music side. It's just very very unfortunate that we have these stratifying lines in music.
So it comes down to, hey, whatever it takes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If they want to give it to Billy, okay, fine. But people know the truth.
Yeah,
Uh, People are not fooled. But you know, it's teamwork because you gotta they had to recognize that Billy Ray's voice is going to take that song up another notch because he's from the country world, and having that country twang on top of it is gonna you know it's gonna cross that line. So it's a great business move.
certainly, certainly. So nowadays, with the invention of the internet and with sites like SoundCloud, YouTube, Bandcamp, I guess, and with the accessibility of microphones, it seems like the barrier of entry to music has really been lowered. In your opinion, do you think this is leading to more musical innovation? Because on the internet, we have, I guess you can say, new genres of music. And do you think it's currently watering down, I guess you can say, this highbrow culture of music that used to exist in the past?
I don't know. I mean, as far as I don't know if I understand your question, but I think what waters down this business is the accessibility of people um, uh, buying equipment, nowadays, because the equipment is cheaper than from when I was growing up. Back when I was
Hmm.
growing up, the equipment was expensive, so a lot of people couldn't do it. I mean, you really had to be passionate in order to pay that type of money to get a piece of equipment to just create music. But
Yeah.
now, being that it's so everything is on a laptop, so this business has gotten watered down by people who are not passionate, who are just thinking about it, or just thinking about it on more of a monetary term. You know what I mean? It's all about money rather than being passionate about being a musician or being an artist, or thinking about being a star. So that's where I see this business as getting watered down. Um, so I think the cheaper that the equipment gets, I think the worse this business is going to be with just the congestion of all these people wanting to be rappers or wanting to be producers or mixers. It's just getting a little crazy because a lot of people, in social networking and how we have, now that we have Spotify and everything, and we have the YouTube, and we can just upload stuff, and people can just make beats and put it up there, and just create a beat that's like something else that someone did, and put your own lyrics to it, and become this big star. And I think that's how this business becomes watered down. And I think the people that really love this business kind of get pushed to the wayside. So that's my outlook on this whole business. It's just how we can get our hands on like Fruity Loops um and Reason and all those things, and just make beats. You know what I mean? It's not even about sampling. It's just about people just creating, all types of trap beats, and just put an 808 on it, and then all of a sudden, it just becomes this thing.
I feel like that exists mostly in the hip hop scene. Everybody wants to become a
Yeah,
rapper nowadays,
definitely.
and
Because it's easy. It's
mhm.
easy. You can just create the same beat, put an 808 on it, and put a little sound on it, and it's done. Yeah,
And like we've been saying before, there isn't that much innovation being put into it. It's
right.
just like, oh, I've seen this. It's one thing to be inspired, right? It's one thing to be inspired, but when everybody starts to sound the same, perhaps I'm just jaded. It really, it it just it's hard to listen to the music at that point. It really is.
Hmm.
So you start to go into experimental genres to try to get a breath of fresh air. So Tyler, the creator, was at one of Kanye West's Sunday services. Um, did he ever talk about this to you? Did he ever mention uh,
I
if
mean,
you
I, I
if you
mean,
can speak on
I've
it?
been there one time, and it was great. It's so funny. We went like a week apart. I went the week before he went, and it was great. It was a great experience just to feel the music, and to see where Kanye is at right now. And then Tyler went the following week, and he loved it. He said it was great. He's got the singers are just incredible. He's got a great band.
Oh, yeah,
So what he's
I agree.
creating is really great. I'm just curious. So my whole curiosity is he making an album out of this whole experience, or what's his next move? Uh, so I'm really curious of what Kanye's going to come with, because he was supposed to put out a record, he didn't put it out, and so we're all wondering if he's going to put a if he's going to put a gospel record out. We're all curious. So
I hopefully I've heard that the gospel choir, the official samples, I think that's what they're called, the samples. Like the amount of stuff they've been working on, their routine is really like rigorous. Uh, Certainly, you get a sense that they love what they're doing, because they're always like, it's not just on Sundays that they do these things. It's pretty much every day of the week they think about it, and they work real hard. It certainly is an experience just to, look at it on the computer. It's one thing, you were lucky enough to go there, but it looks really, really amazing, you know.
it really is, man. He's doing something it's really fascinating. It really is, man. So I'm just curious what the next phase is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the choreography,
Mm-hmm.
um, just everything that goes into that kind of stuff to set up.
Yeah.
For granted, an event that you go to, but there's a lot of people it takes to make that thing happen. And as smart
Oh
as
man.
Kanye is, he knows that he's just a small cog in a larger system.
Right.
And I think the Sunday services really kind of highlight that.
Yeah. He's just Kanye. I think he realized he's just he's just a conduit. It's just because there's a lot of moving parts, within that organization, and Kanye is the brainchild of it. But you need all those moving parts in order to create it. I mean, in order to make it happen, and in order for it to come to fruition. And so what he's doing is really a great thing. I mean, it's another chapter in Kanye's book. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly agree. He's trying a lot of new things, and he looks really happy, with what he's doing right
Yeah,
now.
I think he's in
It
a good
certainly
space. Yeah,
looks,
it's
yeah.
good to see him that way.
Especially seeing. Did you see the Coachella performance?
I just saw pictures of it. I really didn't see any video. I just saw photos, and I heard about it, and I read about it, and I was amazed by what he created. He created like a fake mountain or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing what Coachella did for him. And I just think Coachella is really growing, man. Because before they would never do the amazing stage setups that they're doing now. Now they're coming with amazing stages, man. So it's really growing into something huge. They're really being this. Always, I was pretty floored by all the stage setups that everybody had. Just looking at photos and stuff, and then seeing what they did for Kanye, and they made this fake mountain for him. I'm like, wow, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Have you been to Coachella before?
I've been a couple of times years ago. I haven't been last maybe 6 years, so it's been a while since I've been there.
Yeah, there were some people online. They would like to bring up the argument that Coachella used to be for indie and up and coming artists, and the main criticism is that now it's shifted to this commercial. Let's just play the hottest artists on right now. But I don't really feel like that is a necessary point, because I feel like you can have up and coming artists perform, and you can also have everyone's favorites come too. So when I see posts like that, I'm really I guess I'm confused as to why people go so far in their criticisms.
I think that also happened to South by Southwest too. South by
Mm-hmm.
Southwest was a whole different beast back in the day. Now it's commercialized, and it's more about the major artists. If of course a lot of indie artists are there trying to get on and show their skills and showcasing, but it's become a big monster as well. Um, but you always see that coming when something is popular. You just gotta be ready for it. It is what it is. It always happens. When you got the indie artists have this platform, and then we have a bunch of people that come in and want to see these indie artists coming up. I think a lot of the labels or whoever say, "Hey, let's put a major artist on it," and that's when it starts. You know, and then it's going to become its own monster. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
that there's a lot of festivals that started off with more indie artists, and then all of a sudden somebody saw the potential in it becoming this major level thing, and everything kind of becomes infiltrated. And it's sad in some points though, because the major artists have a lot of access to a lot of things, and when you come in and take over this little indie things. And I'm always looking out for the indie artists, because there's a lot of great indie music out there that people don't get a chance to hear. But thank God that we have social networking now where a lot of indie artists can really shine. So there is a platform for indie artists, but just as long as we make sure that we let them shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess one of the other points is that like when you introduced some of these larger artists, is that everyone's attention seems to shift from the indie artist to that larger artist. But I mean, I can also see why these organizations, introduce them, because the name recognition will certainly draw more people coming to these shows. And if there is some sort of trickle effect, maybe the indie artists will notice that their crowd size would be slightly bigger.
Yeah, I mean it's all about money. Let's be real. That's
Yeah,
what makes the world go
certainly.
round. It's about sponsors. When you have something that is building, then you get more sponsors are coming in because the sponsors know that when you have more people gathering, you got more eyes on your product, and so more sponsors are going to come into to represent that artist or represent a certain event. And it is what it is. We just have to deal with it and move on. I just hope that everybody gets a look, gets a proper look.
Hmm.
And that's what I mean by an artist has to do something that's great. You got to do something that makes you stand out, because you will never fail if you have something good that stands out that doesn't somebody else. So in these type of instances when you have a South by Southwest, you really got to bring something to the table. I mean, you can't do nothing about Coachella. Coachella is going to grab who's the hottest ticket and who's the hottest upcoming artist. So you just got to be in there fighting. I always tell people that this music business is war. It's a competition. You know what I mean? It's not friendly fire. It really isn't. It's all about war, and everybody's going to stomp the next person down. It's like being a barrel of crabs. So when you see a barrel of crabs, what are they doing? They're trying to climb over each other,
Yep.
trying to get to the top. And it's what this business is. So if you really want to be in this business, and if you want to be a longevity artist, you better bring something.
And I mean, on that point, certainly you have some artists nowadays some up and coming artists who are very anxious when it comes to being creative online. They have this fear that their craft, their style, the way they present themselves has the potential of being copied by someone who's has more notoriety in the music community. What can you say to these artists who are afraid to be creative because they fear as if their creations will be, I guess, appropriated from them?
Yeah, I know there's some artists out there that kind of are perched like vultures looking at indie artists, and they because they know there's a lot of indie artists that are doing some really unique things, and a lot of major artists out there are kind of looking at these indie artists and taking their sound and running with it even before that indie artist has a chance to get out. And I think that's a shame. um, I don't know what to call that. I mean, I have a name for it, but I don't want to say it here. But I just think it's sad when you take from another artist who's trying to get on, and whose sound is coming from his gut, is coming from him. And this major artist is coming in, heard his sound and taking it. I just think it's wrong. And so when an artist is afraid to present his sound, I think that's sad, because what else are you going to do? I mean, you either present it or you get out of it, and you do something else. But you have to present it, so you have to take that chance.
Yeah, and it really is depressing when you think about it, because
Oh, it is depressing. I mean, it's very depressing. This is something you know that you're passionate about, and somebody's taking it
mm-hmm.
because they have fear, because that whoever's taking it is the one that has fear, really. That's the one that is afraid of not lasting, or afraid of not winning.
Yeah, and it's like they rely on this vacuum where they like to suck people's creativity away from them and try to masquerade themselves. And it's like, how long can you keep up this act? Because I've seen this happen before. And what really breaks my heart is that I'm not going to name any names, obviously,
Oh no,
but
I think we all know who those.
yeah, it's like when you hear the original creators, like the original makers of these art styles that are being appropriated by well known artists, when you hear them trying to speak out about it on the internet, uh, it's like everyone tells them to shut up, or it's like, yeah, right, sure you did.
Yeah,
And
because
it
those are the
really hurts me
fanatics. So
when I look
when
at
you,
these things.
when that major artist has a fan base,
Mm-hmm.
and when they're not hip to that indie artist is, they're going to be crucified for speaking up. You know what I mean? It's not cool. There are some people out there who say things that are not true.
That's
So there
true.
is two sides to the coin. There's always that person that always wants to say, "Oh, he took my sound," and they just want to say that because they want to be, they just want to be a disruptor.
I think it's kind of hard too when you think about rap and like beats per minute and how people try to stay on flow. Um, when I listen to I'm sure you know who Bobby Shmurda is, right? And
Uh huh.
Young Ma. When
Yeah.
Bobby Shmurda released Hot Nigga and Young Ma released the song Ooh,
Uh-huh.
instrumentally they sound similar and as well as their flow, and it makes me question whether or not it was something intentional. Did they try to copy each other's style, or was it just like the nature of the music, of the
I think it's
genre,
the
because
nature
it's
of,
so
yeah. I
repetitive?
think it's just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. I don't know. I mean, who's to say what it is? I just think those things happen, and um, it's like in Jamaican music,
Mm-hmm.
they copy each other all the time, but it's just it's something that they do. Those are just the rules. You can just take another person's sound and put your own thing on top of it. It's just what it is. They just share music, but when it comes to here, over here, we do it sometimes. It's hard to say why a person did it. You know what I mean? Because there are rules. There are some rules to the game here, but we don't know what it was. I mean, we don't know if that person knew that person, the other person that did, just don't know. So it's hard to. So I choose not to judge that part of it. We just
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But I definitely know what you mean. I just think it's and maybe they just admired that beat and wanted to create something similar. You never know.
Yeah,
Those one of those things, man.
it's all how, I guess, partially how each party reacts to the situation. Sometimes I think that's what it comes down to, because I can easily see some people make the excuse that, well, this is just how the genre sounds like, or this is how the current environment is. Other people, it's just straight up, I've been watching you for years, and I'm just going to try your style and see if it works for me. And I won't even give you a head nod in your direction.
Right, right.
Well, from what I remember, there was this tribe in Papua New Guinea, and there was this particular lady who was singing this village hymn, and I guess, some researchers were recording her, and they were doing a bunch of documentary analysis on her. So they had the audio recordings and the footage, and slowly but surely it would be released into you know newspapers, and particular channels would report on it, and eventually artists began to sample that lady's voice and try on her style. I guess you can say some sort of cultural appropriation to some extent, and it throughout the years it would go through a series of renditions, eventually losing its original roots and seemingly as if the song came out of nowhere. There is no recognition of the lady now, because of the internet, we can talk about it. It's a shame I can't remember her name. Um, but yeah, I guess that's analogous to what's going on currently.
I think it's, I mean, those things have, I think they've always happened through the business in certain stages. I don't know if you guys listen to a lot of '60s and '70s music, but
Hmm.
you can hear a lot of influences in a lot of groups. They kind of borrowed from each other different things, but it was never as it was never as bad as it is as the years went on. But everybody kind of borrowed from each other certain things, and nobody ever sued each other either. It was just, I think people were more like, when you heard somebody borrow a chord structure from you or something, or I think they were more flattered back in the day than
Hmm.
right now. People are so quick to sue each other, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird. It's kind of strange that they're very quick. And that's what I mean. It's become such a money game that now people just want to sue for money, 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 money. So, of course, if something is blatantly stolen from you and they take maybe a whole section, cool. But now, people are suing if you have a little bit of a vocal part or a little vocal melody or a little chord here or there. They just want to sue and just get a piece of the song. I think that's outrageous.
And certainly, I guess you can say this happened to Juice World when he made this song, "Shadows in Your Room," something like that. I still see the shadows in my room. The original, the song that it was sampled from, I guess they came back and they took about 90% of the song's earnings. So it really goes to show when it comes to sampling and I guess using people's music and art style, especially when it comes to music, when sometimes it can be very opinionated. I guess you can say it halts progress to some degree. And this isn't only just in music. You see this in fashion as well. Off White suing this company because apparently they copied them. But I want to see what you think about this because DJ Angel Fire and I have been looking into this. When it comes to artists who are signed under the same label or parent labels, sometimes they seem to have the same style. It's like the label is pushing artists in one direction. Sometimes they create artists. I'm sure you've heard of the term of industry plants. What do you think about the whole entire concept of an industry plant and labels pushing artists to go in one particular direction, a direction they may not particularly like?
Oh, you mean just creating like a fake artist, like an artist that's a person who's not talented? You mean, and just
Yeah, whether
make,
they're
make
talented
them
or
into
not,
something?
just creating something like that.
That's been happening for decades. You know,
Hmm.
so it's just something that's just part of the business. To to create an artist out of nothing. Like if you look at American Idol,
Yep.
that's basically the basis of that, is creating something out of nothing. That's what it is. Of course, there are some people on there that have talent, so I don't want to discredit. But I think it's that show is more about the person with the big voice and not about the artist. Like, is that person a star? I mean, the person can sing, but is that person a star? Because there is a big difference. I always tell people, if Prince was on that show, he wouldn't go to Hollywood because he didn't have he doesn't have the thing that I think the American Idol wants. If you put Bob Dylan on there, he would not go to Hollywood. If you put certain type of artists on that show, they would have never went to Hollywood, because that show is more about the big voice, and and how it's just weird. So it's just one facet of the business. It doesn't encompass the whole music business and and artists. It doesn't really show what a superstar truly is. It just says, oh, this person's got a big voice, so that person is supposed to be famous. No, it's more than that, and that's why a lot of those artists that came out of that whole American Idol thing didn't make it, because it's a different beast.
And I guess there's a certain theme tonight. Like, as we're talking about this, the whole entire music industry. It's like, from in my perspective, there seems to be this battle between the money that's in the music industry and the true love and innovation that should be in music, but that's slowly being curved by the demand to put out more content at a lesser quality. So I was looking at Tyler's or one of the Golf Wang's media accounts. They said that there was a track that did not make the final cut. Now I'm not sure if you can if you can talk about this. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. A track that did not make the final cut for Igor, that will be included on the vinyl. Was there any throwaway material from
No,
Igor?
nothing throw away. It's just there was a song that we mixed that didn't make it. That it just didn't fit the sequence of the album. It just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work within the sequence. So they're gonna put that song on the physical copy,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the digital copy, which of course is iTunes and Spotify and all that.
Mm-hmm. So
But
it's like an extra.
yeah, it's an extra song, but it might be more than one that's going to be added to the physical. That's what I'm hearing. So, but I know there was one that we did finish that we didn't add onto this sequence, but I think there may be more.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about earlier about growing up and listening to vinyl, and now there's certainly been a resurgence in vinyl, and I was just kind of wondering what your thoughts on that
Oh, I
were.
love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm a vinyl person. I still have vinyl all in my room. I have vinyl. I have a couple of rack spaces where I have vinyl in it. I need to have vinyl around me, even if I don't play it all the time. I need to have vinyl around me because that's where I come from. You know, not to have vinyl around me is just weird, because I come from that space where you hold an album cover, you turn it over, you read the credits, you see, and the album cover was more about the art too. Like, it's, what I mean, having a CD is just so. CDs first came into play. It was such a convenience to store CDs, and they tried to keep the art album art going, but and then you pull it out, you have the fold outs and whatever, it's cool, but to have a vinyl record, that's a whole nother level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for it to have a resurgence, and I mean, I love it because it's something that the kids who didn't experience it when it was happening back in the day, to really experience it now, I think that's great, man. And a lot of these vinyl plants are backed up. I mean, and you got to get in line to get vinyl done now. And I think that's incredible. A lot of stuff is back ordered. So
Yeah,
I can't
I
wait
certainly
for
agree.
I can't wait to see Igor on vinyl. I think that'll be incredible.
Yeah, I'm like cop, man. I just like the whole like pink theme, to the vinyl
Vinyls,
disc.
yeah, right.
I have
Imagine
like
being
two
on a big,
vinyls,
yeah. Imagine
two
an
vinyls.
album cover with that. I mean, take like that. That's amazing. Rather than having a little CD, man.
For me, I'm gonna actually go against the grain, and I actually do collect CDs, but nowadays they just have it all on Spotify. They don't even have like,
Yeah,
or I feel
yeah,
like
that's the
the
word.
trend has.
Right, that's true. I mean, we can't even. Now they're trying to, take CDs out of the equation now. It's like, wow, so we can't hold nothing. It's just sad. Everything's digital. I mean, some people can live with that, but I can't. I need something to hold. I need a physical copy. If it's going to be a CD, fine. If it's vinyl, that's even better. I think we need to bring cassettes back because there's a little urgent. It's in over. They're bringing cassettes back, and I think that's amazing too.
And while we're at it, why not the mini disc, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Bring
They
all
they
that.
look
Bring all the
really
physical
nice.
stuff back. Yeah, but vinyl and cassettes. That was just an incredible time.
We have a question from our friend 51st Citizen. You mix for TLC's song Waterfalls.
Oh man.
Favorite song of theirs. I was wondering if you could get insight into how it was like mixing for them and just like the song was going to be.
Man, it was so many years ago, but that was great because I had uh, recorded and mixed that song top to bottom, and that was back in the day when I was working with Organized Noise, and
Mm-hmm.
I was the guy who actually recorded it and mixed it too. So that was a great experience, being there from day one on that record when the lyrics were first written, and sitting there watching the beat actually be created, um, and recording the band, and recording T Boz's vocal, um, and recording Left Eye, the late great Left Eye.
Yeah.
So I mixed that song all by myself in the studio. Um, and I had arranged the horns on there. If you look at the credits, you'll see horns by Shock. That's me. I put a little pseudonym there. I didn't play the horns, but I gave the horn players the parts that I heard. So when you hear that record, that's me, telling the horn players what I want to hear and where to play it, and so. But that was great, man. I still think that song should have won a Record of the Year Grammy. That was a huge song. It had a perfect statement for that time, um, and you know, it was a beautifully metaphoric. It's always great being part of history, being part of And I always tell people that I'm not. It's funny that I found out that today Igor will be number one on the Billboard album charts.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone is an incredible feat, man. Because we worked hard on Igor, and I worked hard on Waterfall too. But those types of records, like what I'm trying to get to is that there are a lot of songs that I've worked on, a lot of albums I've worked on, and I'm not the guy that has all the Taylor Swift number one albums or Adele or Ariana Grande. I'm not the guy that works on those records, but I will say that I'm proud of the projects that I've worked on, the different stuff, the innovative records that I've worked on. So I'm definitely blessed.
It's so surreal. Like we're talking to you. Like it's this was a song that I used to listen to when I was a kid, or like when I was with my mom. Today's my mom's birthday, and she
Oh, great.
TLC and SWV, and Vogue. Yeah, they they were her favorite. She really liked that all their music. Yeah, um, and I remember, I vaguely remember Outcasts or Hey Yeah. I remember listening to it when I was younger. I was like probably 5 or so, whenever.
Wow,
But
you make me feel old, man.
but it's amazing. Like I'm actually sitting, well, I'm not sitting next to you, but talking to uh, one of the people that worked on these projects, and it's like, wow, it's you have quite the career, and it's amazing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's amazing.
Oh no, thank you, man. I'm just a fortunate guy. I'm just a guy from New Jersey. I tell people all the time, I'm just a guy. I fought my way to get where I am now, and I'm just I've been blessed that people like what I do, and and stay relative amongst all these young guys that are
Hmm.
out there. So a lot of guys, I'm sure they want to take my place. So I just got to keep fighting because I love this business. I'm very
Hmm.
passionate. I don't take it for granted. Something that I want to do until I can't do it. And I always wanted to do it, and this is where I am. So hey, man, I thank God for that.
Amen. Yeah. Can you describe? Well, this is going to be like a bit of a background type thing, but can you describe what it was like growing up uh, in New Jersey? Like, how was it when you were a kid from your neighborhood? And
Oh man, New Jersey is great. My heart is still in New Jersey. I really love. Yeah, I think if the music business was in New Jersey, I would still be there.
yeah,
But a lot happens in LA, so I have to be where everything is happening, where everything is moving and shaking. But growing up in New Jersey, it was simple life, you know, playing on the street. That was back when kids actually played outside. You ride your bike. You listen to music. You have parties. You have the change of seasons, meaning that it was hot summers and the winters were brutal.
yeah,
And a great childhood though, man. It was really great, and just a lot of great memories growing up in New Jersey. I have a big family, extended family, as far as cousins and aunts and uncles. So growing up in New Jersey was great. I have a lot of fond memories about growing up there. And my family is still there. My mother still lives there. Still got aunts and uncles and um, cousins that are still there. So my heart is still there in Jersey. I still I definitely I still think about Jersey a lot.
man. That that really. I mean, I'm still here in Jersey as well, but like, yeah, just hearing that makes me, for some reason, yeah, I'm nostalgic. Certainly nostalgic too. Just hearing that from where I used to live in up north here in Jersey. Yeah, it is something. Yeah, yeah.
This kind of makes me think about a conversation I had with Kwaku yesterday.
Hmm.
I talked about how I recently remodeled home, and to go back to that house to see it there,
Hmm.
there's something comforting about it.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, to go back and see the house you used to live in or whatever. Yeah, it's great. Hopefully a person that does see the house that they lived in has had fond memories about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you had some good times there, it's always great to go back and see it. And see how small it looks now. When you grow up, you're like, wow, I thought it was bigger than. You know.
So Neil, where do you? What's next for you? Like, what's the next project you're going to be working on?
Oh, I just finished up this great project by James Davis. They're signed to Motown. It's two sisters and a brother. They're a family unit. It's three of them,
Hmm.
and they're signed to Motown. It's R&B music. It's really great. Worked on that. Just finished that. I think I'm working on the next Doja Cat album. I'm not sure yet. I should find out soon.
Oh my.
So I worked on her previous one. I mixed a hip hop cat signed to Republic Records. Name is Kimba. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
mixing that album. Um, Almost done. Should be done in about a week or so. What else have I been working on? There's an artist signed to Hollywood Records. His name is Bobby A, which is a really, really great soul crooner. He's from Australia, uh, but an incredible singer. Working with an artist named Cherokee. Finished her 5-song EP, but I really don't like to use the word EP anymore. I just call them projects.
Mm-hmm.
um, that what else? Sometimes when I think about it, my mind goes blank. But oh man, but what's coming up is I don't know, man. The phone is ringing almost every day, so I can't remember. But I'll try to keep you guys up on everything that I'm working on. But I'm always working. I mean, always crazy. But it's fun though. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm a workaholic, and I just love to work. I love to stay busy, and this is what I do day in and day out.
The true freedom is like when you find something you love and it also happens to be your job. I think people like that are very, very lucky. Yeah, very lucky.
Oh, I'm working on this 9-piece band from Montreal, Canada. Incredible musicians, singers, writers. It's called Busty and the Bass. Incredible stuff. I worked on their first record called Uncommon Good, and now working on another album that's coming up, which is going to be even more exciting than the first album. So definitely check them out soon.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so I'm all over the place, man. That's what it is. I was raised on all types of music, so I'm not prejudiced to anything. I mean, I love it all. If it has a good melody and great groove, then I'm all over it.
Before you leave, do you want to shout out your social media? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, if anybody wants to keep up with me, you can go to my website. It's nealhpogue.com. Just how my name is spelled. If you see my credits on albums, it's just nealhpogue.com. And you can keep up with me on that to find out what I'm working on, what's up. I try to keep up. I try to make sure that I keep my latest stuff up on there and what I'm working on, what's upcoming. Keep everybody up on me, and that's about it. I mean, social networking. I mean, it's pretty much my name. My IG is the same thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
Neal H Pogue. I always try to keep it simple. My Facebook is Neal H Pogue. So I try to keep everything simple. I don't try to put fancy names because then it's hard to find. So I just keep it straightforward.
All right. Well,
Right. Well, thank you for time out of your busy schedule to be here with us, Neal. We
Okay.
sincerely appreciate it.
yes, most certainly.
All right. Cool.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
All right, guys. Talk soon.